Test. Since you're listening to our podcast, perhaps you may want to try learning more with RealTuners in a live dyno environment. We have 2-day courses in dyno shops all across the country. Register for these at RealTuners.com. Click on RealTuners Live Classes. Learn how to tune your own standalone EFI systems like Holley, FuelTech, Megasquirt, Fast, and now GM factory ECUs all live on the chassis dyno. We now are setting dates for GM Gen 3 and 4 2-day classes taught by James Short of Shore Tuning. Our classes are built for budget-conscious racers seeking max performance for minimum spend. Upcoming classes with available seats are as follows. Nano Nitrous is hosting a standalone ECU class in Kansas City on July 21st and 22nd. We have 2 seats left. Our GM Factory ECU classes are August 11th and 12th at Endless Performance in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and October 13th and 14th in Dallas, Fort Worth. Both are filling up fast. Sign up now. Stay tuned for more fall and winter dates. Get more info or sign up for updates at RealTuners.com. We do this for a living, and we want you to be able to do it too.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to RealTuners Radio, episode 54. Tonight, we're just freestyling it. We're going to wing it a little bit. We're just going to sit around and catch up on the week's antics and events and latest and greatest happenings. Keeping you entertained throughout the evening will be John Bewley from Little John's Motorsport Solutions, Tom Sewell of Fuel Injector Development, James Short, Shore Tuning, Mark Dahlquist from Throttles Performance, Bill Fowler, Bear Brakes, Scott Evans, Helix Tuning, Cody Bruce and Mo Lonis from Nano Nitrous, Chad Reynolds from Bankshift.com, Jimmy Bowling from Busher Racing, Dan Parker, Movie Star, and me, Rye Clem from Bull City Speed. And finally, a man who puts ketchup on steak, drinks boxed wine, and has seen every episode of Seventh Heaven. Scott Clark, Real Tuners.
Classic.
Crickets.
Yeah, that was nice.
Sorry.
Ketchup on steak. I had Country Bob's on chicken for lunch.
As long as you don't put ketchup on your mac and cheese.
No.
Or mashed potatoes.
That would be wrong.
Oh, it's so wrong. It's beyond wrong. ketchup on meat is one thing. Ketchup on mac and cheese or mashed potatoes is a whole nother level.
I'm discovering that my headphones don't work tonight. This is gonna be interesting.
I feel like ketchup on mashed potatoes is like being fed French fries like a baby bird.
Right? Kind of. I mean, if you need to put ketchup on your potatoes, it has to be fried in some way, shape, or form.
Right? No, if they're fried, then it's time to break out the ketchup. I would agree with that.
I mean, some slices.
I can support it on French fries. I can support it on hash browns.
So, anyway, well, welcome everyone. Man, we almost didn't make that. I had a technical glitch with 1 minute to go. I had to reboot and restart everybody.
Nothing like the thing crashing within 2 minutes of going live.
No,
right?
this has been a rough couple. Not rough, just busy thrashing. I was over at Andy Leach's shop is local to me up here in Omaha, Cal Automotive Creations. The Riddler type of car guys or whatever.
Yeah.
They are building a super badass Barracuda, and it's got a Hellcat crate motor in it.
Yeah, I saw the post you put up.
Yeah,
about
right.
that.
And so for those that didn't look on my Facebook, I just posted a thing. It literally was the fourth time we started it up, but it's got a Holley Dominator on it. It's drive-by-wire. It's got this weird dual throttle arrangement thing that I think we're going to run into some issues. I'm going to have to change some stuff up on it, but it's got a deal where it's a boost bypass, and they use like a regular throttle body, and it's drive-by-wire style. It's electronic, it's an electronic throttle controller, and they close that off when you to start building boost or whatever. They actually use that to regulate boost and transition from part throttle. So,
well, I mean, even the GM stuff's got one of those, but I don't necessarily know that it's electronically controlled, and I think theirs is like mechanically actuated.
Finding out today, I may have a control issue. The method Holley does it is they just invert it from the regular throttle, I guess.
Yeah.
And Richard Nedball, EFI expert guy, he has online class. He's a good dude. He actually messaged me, and he was like, dude, this is what I ran into. He's done one on a Holley. Very few people have done the Hellcats on the Holley. And I'm finding that it looks like maybe each year at least, or maybe they changed it up multiple times, but there's at least 2 different types of crank and cam sensors floating around out there in these engines. Thought that was kind of interesting. But
they changed those like halfway through the year or something. It was weird.
I had to go thrash on it with Nagel. In fact, we're trying to get him on here in a little bit. He was over there and he's like, all right, this thing's not syncing up right, or something's not right, and help figure it out. And we brought my Pico scope over there. I've had this damn thing for like 8 months, and I haven't forced myself to sit down and use it or even looked at any tutorials or anything, but it's like, all right, this is a good excuse to break out the scope. And yeah, sure enough, we found some stuff out. It had a bad cam sensor.
I wish you'd have gotten some screenshots of that.
Yeah, I know. My dumb ass, I didn't think like, oh man, this would be so cool to take screenshots of this when everybody's standing around and it's a huge budget project with a serious time deadline, and somebody standing over in the corner while we're trying to figure shit out that they didn't account for that in the plan. It just happens. But we got, I think, probably 4 or 5 hours of real hardcore thrashing on it, trying to figure it out, and then finally figuring out that we needed to do some signal conditioning on the crank and cam sensor signals, and it came right around. The drive-by-wire thing so far is working perfect for startup and idle. I got it flaring up RPM a little bit, and then drops right down to it idles at like 700 RPM. A bone stock Hellcat motor. It pulls like full vacuum and just sits there happily as a clam at 700 RPM. They also limit that thing to 6,200 RPM as the factory rev limiter. Did you know this? That low?
Sounds about right.
I guess. I thought they spun them higher than that.
I don't know.
It ain't a mod motor.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a blower limit or engine limit.
We're fixing to find out.
I wonder if they've got the blower pulleyed up to the point, and 6,200 is just max for the blower.
If you follow Andy Leach on Facebook, they actually drove that damn thing this afternoon too and took it out. Said it needed a clutch adjustment.
I bet they have that thing pulleyed in a way that it's kind of both a limit of the blower and a limit of what the engine can handle from that blower, probably.
Right.
And that just happened to be their safe stopping point, probably was about 62. Like you could probably push it further, but you're, with being sealed up, nothing done to it other than being a crate motor, you're at the limit of whatever the parts can do.
Maximum apologies. I didn't have the Mixler going until right about right about then. So the Mixler broadcast was offline. I think, people are mad at us. Sorry, everybody. They can scroll back. Actually, we didn't record the intro there. That's going to make for an interesting one. So anyway, Rye, man, we ought to start off with, everybody went to all of our East Coast dudes went to Street Car Takeover. So that was James Short. He went and supported a bunch of cars, including one that I worked on. And then Mr. Rye Klemp took his ride out there and you're just trying to run some numbers and get your performance up to where you're satisfied with it.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I've never been to a Street Car Takeover event. I know it's a huge event and it's kind of right up the alley of the type of racing that I really am into. Like, we had Justin on here a couple weeks ago talking to him, and I want to go out there too and support the, BTR, the Brian Tooley Racing guys. Logan and them came out. So we had the car in the booth there. It was kind of cool. Like it's super rad to be able to stand kind of shoulder to shoulder and just kind of be among the company. I feel the same way of being on this podcast, like even talking to you guys still, that like, I look around, I'm like, holy shit, I'm kind of here. Like,
and you didn't even talk to anybody important. It was just Logan.
Right. Exactly. Like,
how is it going to feel if you're around the man himself,
Well, so
he's been to my class, dude. He knows what it's like to be around the man.
Here we go.
Zing!
Shit's getting deep already. But no, it was cool. Like it kind of started out a little bit of a damper on the event. Like Friday night, the night meet, we got there and it was raining. Like it was pouring down rain, and we skipped out on the night meet. And I guess even in the rain, they were still running the dyno, and the place was packed. So I guess it was complete chaos out there. We missed out on that, but we showed up. Gates open at like 10 for racers, and we still had to wait like an hour. I think the track, they just didn't have a reasonable expectation of how many people were actually going to show up, and they were blown away. I think it was like over 400 cars just for drag racing. So organization wise, it left a little bit to be desired, but I think they did the best with what they could. But, we got there, unloaded the car. So I put a TH400 transmission in the thing, got rid of the 4L80 finally. Finally listened to everybody.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
I need to rig up some sounds for that. Yeah.
Yeah, you need the angel singing. We need the angel singing sound effect for that.
I'll work on it.
It's a totally different car. Even though the street pulls that we did, I was like, oh man, same boost level on the street. This is night and day difference with the right converter, or right-ish. But just to get some data, like I had to go out and make a roll racing hit. We went 150 miles an hour on like 18 pounds of boost, nothing big. Then the street drive was, we sat there and waited for 45 minutes for everybody to kind of get organized for that. Car did good on that, come back. And I am not kidding you. When we came back from the street cruise, they're like, all right, guys, you have, get in the lanes now and you can make a test hit before we start eliminations. Like, fantastic. We've come in through the gate. Staging lanes are packed past the 8th mile mark, 2-3 deep. And I'm like, I couldn't even get to back to my pit. I had to like cut through the car show just to get back over where we were sitting at. And, eventually I walked over to the lanes and figured out the 8th mile, no time, guys. There's only like 5 people in that lane. So jumped in there just to make a hit. And it was a complete shit show. Get up to the line, let go of the brake, and it completely shakes the tires. I thought I was going to rattle my fillings out of my head. I pedal it and stick it, and then it just bangs the limiter. Muscle memory, I forgot that I have to shift this thing myself now. It's not an 80E. It won't do it for me. So completely aborted that pass. So now, we roll into the nighttime, sunsets. The eliminations are taking a lot longer than they expected, and go up for a first round to pull chips. I have no clue where to even start. I'm lost. I put 3 different tune-ups in the thing, hoping something would make it down. Like I turned the boost down, and dude, thank God Eric Yost was there in my class. That dude is a badass. Like I owe him huge thanks. I went and tried to find him afterwards, but he came over to me. We were talking about it, and I told him what I did to the car. He's like, "Yeah, you need to do the opposite on everything. Raise the rev, raise your launch, raise the boost, and up your tire pressure." So I was like, "Yes, Obi-Wan, I will listen to you." And dude, everything he said worked. We drew I think they're the guys from JPC. I can't remember his name. He has a white notchback, like a 91, sitting on 17-inch pony wheels. Apparently, this car has gone 790s in the past on 17-inch ponies. So I thought for sure this is going to be somewhat of an easy win, and I was like, well, he's got a parachute on the back. There's something. He's in this class for a reason. You know what I mean? And we get up there, and when I let go of the brake and I see him next to me, I was like pissed. I thought for sure this is like a 960, 970 pass. He got me. He won. But dude came around, grabbed the time slip, and when I saw it, man, I lost my mind. 871 at 156 miles an hour. I finally got an 8-second pass. And that was,
congratulations.
Yeah, dude, I was super stoked.
I'm stoked, man. That's outstanding. I think it's cool just because you went to the class and you learned so much, man. And what's funny is it's all documented. You could probably go back and listen to it on the, on the podcast and just kind of go from, you basically had, starting off from scratch with your gold box, getting you all sorted out, going to a class, getting your shit figured out, swapping transmissions, listening to Bewley a little bit, teaming up with those guys.
Like I knew, I this past year, and I've talked about it before. Like I've lived in California. I've been living back in North Carolina now for a year, and I lived in California for 10 years before that. It's so much easier to race out here, and this past year, being able to actually focus on my program has dude, exponentially. Like I talked about it before. Like you have those moments of enlightenment. I call it almost like prestiging when you get those epiphanies about oh, that's how this works. I've had so many of those in the past year between just, breaking shit on my car, being on this podcast, talking to you guys. So, everybody that's helped me along the way, everybody on this podcast has helped me. Brian Tooley Racing, Viking Suspension, all those dudes are awesome. And I can't thank everybody enough. And this is just the start. You know what I mean? 870 is not enough to, go out and chop heads at Drag Week, but, I fully intend to. I hear there's another podcast that might be in the same class as me, and it is my goal and aspirations to establish dominance.
Oh, is that like a little bit? What's going on there?
Hold up.
Did I just?
What was that? Just a straight up call out?
It might have been.
What was it? Just say yes or no. Did you call out the guys from the other one? What was it? Beds and Weeds podcast or something like that?
Yes, those other guys, the Better Homes and Gardens podcast. I don't endorse that.
Those guys are awesome.
The guys who use the hydroponics, Holly?
The check writers.
No.
The check writers.
Dude,
I'll say.
Oh my God, Mike's gonna be calling me because 14 people are literally posting right now on their
tell them
their website.
Tell those
Facebook,
guys Rye from Bull City Speed. It wants them heads up at Drag Week.
At the end of the week, dude, when everybody shit's worn out, you'd be like, why did I agree to do this?
Yeah, not the test day, not the first day.
No. Yeah, day 5. After I've made my final pass, I hand in that slip. We can turn them up and let them eat and see what they'll do. So, if you a simple yes or no.
There's something to going at the straight up. Who's got the best average for the week? You can always do the turn up glory pass, and then you blow the tires off, or this happens or that happens, because everybody else is doing the same thing, and it becomes kind of the oil downs.
Oh, yeah.
I'll put $100. I'll put $100 on Rye's average is better for the week.
I will match that $100.
Oh man!
Listen to you, ballers.
Well, who are we betting with? We don't have anybody to bet, with on the other side right now.
No, we just laying it out there. Somebody can slap their hand down on that $200 if they want to. Come on with it.
I mean, I ain't
scared.
It's basically it's an 850 index class, so it's your money's only going to take you so far. I feel like I know that I'm operating on a much
more strict budget on this end of the table, but I think we can get it done.
You only got 2 tenths to go.
Yeah, and dude, I've been flogging the bejesus out of this car. We're finding all the kinks. You know what I mean? So it's going good. We got a race tomorrow night. That little local. Oh, I didn't tell you guys about this. So the little local list that I talked about here, that small tire shit that we run.
Mm-hmm.
I'm number 1 now.
You're the hero.
I'm number 1, and I've literally only won a single race, and that was by a red light. But just through sheer perfect attendance, because I'm the only one who shows up consistently every single time, because everybody else is kind of tearing their shit up. I've taken the number 1 spot. So I have tomorrow night I have to race a 615 all cubic inch, all aluminum big block on spray.
You're getting it pushed in. Aim the GoPro forward.
Yeah.
Aim the GoPro forward and diagonal.
Man, ye of little faith.
I don't know,
Holy
but
shit.
You never know.
That's the beauty, dude. The track that we race at, it's not the best surface. Like, it is not Z-Max. You'd be better off just having your race on the return road. It might be a better surface sometimes.
They do that up here in Topeka, and it's actually a pretty cool race. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it's been the great equalizer. There's been a lot of upsets, and I think, I've shown my hand now. I was keeping a lot of it no time, but after running 8, I couldn't help but brag about that. So the car went 550s and on a 130 60 foot. So if I can get the 60 foot down in the low 120s, then they might have their work cut out for them over there.
We can help you with that.
I
think we'll have it figured out by then.
Yeah. But man, the car is even good. I'm so stoked on it. I'm so happy with it.
Did it get back on the trailer under its own power? You brought it home without a bunch of broken shit and stuff hanging out the side?
You better believe the first thing I looked at was the oil pressure. I sent you the pictures. I don't know if you can put them up in the slideshow. Like,
I will just a sec.
The wastegate dumps torched my front bumper out. And
yeah, we saw that.
It's because you didn't put those things out far enough.
Like, yeah, and then because of the air on the front of the car, it's never been down that quarter mile. I haven't ran that thing in the quarter mile since it was running 10s. Like, I went from 10s to 8s. But the front bumper deflected enough where the wastegate dumps got basically sucked inside. And they were just torching out the side of my bumper.
Well, see, that's the problem. The wastegate should have been shut anyway. Nothing should have been coming out of those tubes to start with. And then the bumper wouldn't have got burned up.
This is true. That's the bumper that
We'll get you figured out on this shit at some point in time.
Well, we don't want him to pin the gate shut just yet. We still want it to hold for what it needs to hold.
So, like, this is the other thing too, is looking at the data log, that converter that we threw in the car, my buddy brought up like 3 converters. My buddy Scott Sublett, who's been like holding my hand through all this, kind of smacks me on the back of the head when I do something stupid. Or so if he's listening later, dude, shout out to Scott. I appreciate it. Everything that guy has done for me, man, I owe him all of it. This is literally his.
Scott's badass. He came to the class with him too. He's pretty cool, dude. He's got a lot of experience. He's worked on pro mods and all kinds of shit.
The second I said I'm getting rid of the 4L80, he's like, I'm on my way. He brought me his 400, brought 3 converters. Is like, this one's loose. This one's been 450s. This one's been faster than you'll ever go. Like, which one do you want to put in it? So he brought me everything, like a full on 400 kit to put in the car. So we threw the loosest converter in it, dude. The RPM drop on 2-3 shift is like 400 RPM. It's super loose. It was kind of when I started putting power to it, it's pretty loose up top. And
yeah, you might want to get the one that's the next step tighter.
Yeah, we're looking at all the data on everything, and I'm just seeing all these areas for improvement. I got
your pictures up, Haas, when you want to talk about them. But right now, so I've got the exhaust. How many passes is that now on the fender exit there?
It did that in one pass. It's never done that before.
Oof.
With the torching, yeah.
That's good. Were you on a lot of timing retard? Or you feel free to share, or you feel?
No, it was 16 degrees through the whole pass.
Nice. Okay.
And then that was it.
And nice and safe. Degrees. Didn't hurt nothing, have you?
No.
Yeah, you just kind of set that timing up and left it, and then things hauling ass. That's funny. It
was like 10.6, 10.7 AFR.
You're using a gasoline scale on E85, right?
Yep. So Scott Kleppinger on Facebook, he's been 420s on a 4L80. Yes, I know people have gone fast.
Got to figure it out. Yeah.
I know people have gone fast on an 80. I know that. There was just so much stuff that I did not like about it. I know I could change the converter and loosen it up and get it up where it needs to be, but the valve body and the trans brake that was in there, it was so inconsistent on the line. 1 minute it would bump, like one pass it would bump in on one press of the button like it should, and then the next I couldn't even tell if the car was moving. I had to jam the button like 15 times. Auto start has screwed me over. The way the trans brake would engage when you push the button, which are all just characteristics of this particular trans brake. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just nature of the beast with that thing, and it's not conducive to racing heads up. And it was just cheaper to put a 400 in it. And if I break a 400 on drag week, guess what? Everybody else is running a 400. If I break a 4L80, guess what? Not a lot of people running those. So it was just smart money to make the jump.
I got your picture up here with you, and looks like Mr. Kyle Loftus traveled out there.
Yeah,
cool.
When I brought the car off the trailer and parked it in the BTR booth, he came over there and was talking to me, and we're just kind of shooting the shit a little bit about a mutual hatred for some people that we know.
He was just looking for an excuse to get in Brian's trailer and under the air conditioning. He got a taste of it in Wichita, got cooled off, and he's like, "Oh, that's the same trailer. We're going over there."
Dude, that was the thing. Is like we were all expecting the weather.
Thule's trailer is freaking, that AC in that thing is awesome.
But we were all expecting the weather to be absolutely brutal because of how it's been all week. But because of all that rain we got on Friday, it was like the perfect day. You couldn't ask for a better day. It was like mid 70s and overcast all day. Like you don't get better boost weather in the Southeast than that. The weather was amazing. So I don't know. All in all, guys, it was a great day. I appreciate everybody that helped me on this thing. So shout out to Justin Keith. Thanks to Justin Keith for
I invited him to get on that if he wanted to about 10 minutes before the show. I don't think he's answered yet.
He said that we shattered North Carolina, the Tar Heel State, my home, has shattered the record for Street Car Takeover attendance, and that next year for sure it's going to be a 2-day event, which it absolutely needs to be, man. They didn't even finish running all the races.
Well,
Nice.
it's no doubt due to the guys being on the podcast.
That of course. Now, Street Car Takeover, they got a pretty huge following. They do just fine. I love their events, man. I think that's cool as hell because what you really see going across my Facebook feed, it's, you get the occasional racers. Man, I couldn't run as many hot laps as I wanted to or whatever, and I get that, but it's crowded. But tons and tons of like spectators and people that went to attend and people that go looking for ideas on their own builds and stuff like that show up there, and you see tons and tons of people posting pictures and photos and going live on Facebook. And just sat there that night and just kind of watched live feed scroll by. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was the amount of cars there. Like I said, 400 cars there. And, when you have guys like 1320 and Cletus McFarlane on the property, everybody is going to be, gunning to be, to make it on the next video, I feel like. So they did it.
Famous.
Yeah, they did it because it was 4 wide, but they made lanes 1 and 2 for street tires, like hard tires. And then lanes 3 and 4 were for radials and slicks. Well, radials and slicks far outnumbered the hard tires, so it kind of bottlenecked the staging lanes and then the other thing is I don't know who, I don't want to be super critical, but who the hell makes their staging lanes run uphill, especially when you're trying to push a car up there? So they all go slightly uphill. But man, there's just there's a bunch. I wish I had more time to kind of walk around and spectate a little bit because there were some killer cars on the property, almost like John said, every H pattern killer car in the country probably, or at least on the East Coast, was out there trying to gun it for a record, but nobody got it.
And it was still a go-kart and a stock bottom end 302 Ford in the finals of the stick shift class.
Yep.
What in the world happened to that?
Go-kart. Was that Cletus's car or whatever?
Yeah.
What's his real name? He's actually really nice. He's really cool.
Garrett Mitchell.
Garrett Mitchell. Yeah. Like in person, he's super cool.
Yeah, I talked to him for a little bit.
And you know, I know the reason why he was in the finals. He had the most consistent car in the class all weekend long. Like that car literally went out and ran a string of 826.
They said that dude can drive awesome. Kevin Smith helped work on that car a little bit right before a class we had there, and Kevin said, dude, that dude can drive.
Yeah,
so he's got some laps in that car now, and he's gotten a lot more consistent with it. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, we were pitted right across from him. I talked to him for a little bit, and then when he threw his belt off after beating Logan gave up the idler pulley off of his car. So it was cool to see, like, you know, everybody kind of helping each other out. It was unfortunate that the Dune Buggy took out our own Mr. Short from Short Tuning. I met him this weekend. It was good to put a bunch of faces
to hang out with James
names.
finally. Yeah.
Well, on Friday night, me and my wife and my kid were sitting at a barbecue place, and then this dude walks by, you know, head to toe Hellcat gear, and I was like, I was like, I know that guy. So I met him, and then all day Saturday, man, he was jamming away on the keyboard on his stuff. On who's got the, I should know his name. And I met him, the black C5 with the F1X12 on it.
Yeah, that'd be Jared.
Dude, that car is a beast.
Sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's an animal, man. That thing, when he popped the hood on that, I was like, are you out of your mind? You have a 6-speed behind that? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, not just an F1X12, a gear-driven F1X12.
Yeah, driven right off the crank. Like, it sounds insane.
It sounds like for a crank waiting to become split in 2 or 3 pieces.
Yeah.
Well, you get it figured out one of these days.
Shout out to Scott McDonald listening tonight, I see. Sorry, he's my new X275 buddy. I've been watching him. Scotty Wheels, we got to get you on here sometime. We should get him on here. He's listening. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, that car's he's been having belt problems, and he's like, I'm tired of having belt problems. So what does he do? He upgrades the blower and gets, you know, F1X12 and a gear drive in a stick shift.
We're most
never going to slip again.
Most normal humans would put a turbo on it.
Yeah.
Got rid of the belt problem.
Well, that's what I told. That's what he told me.
And they're drivable, man. I bet it's probably easier to drive one of those, especially on questionable prep. You know, with the ProChar with the big blower on it versus the a turbo combo, getting off boost all the time. If you got to pedal it or whatever, man, I still think they're a little more drivable car.
I was making fun of him for that the other day, and I've always made fun of him for being a blower guy, just because that's just part of the dynamic between me and him. But I was like, I told him, I was like, yeah, glad to see you finally listened. He's like, what the hell do you mean? I said, well, I told you belts were for holding your pants up, and you finally got rid of it. Even if you didn't go to a turbo, you at least got rid of the belt. I would rather aggravate that man than eat some days, and that's saying a whole damn lot.
Maybe we need to get Jared on here sometime.
Yeah, he would be a good one to have on here if he can pry himself away from
that. And Jose, we need to get Jose
a can of Monster. And
I need to get off my ass, but I wake up and it's Wednesday morning and it's like, oh shit, I didn't schedule anybody. I suck at life on the planning, but dude, this is busy season for me. I don't know, remotes are super busy, and just thrashing on project cars.
All the guys that hit me up in like March or April finally getting around to the point in their projects where they got to call you now.
Yeah, I think that's it too. And you always got about, actually, it's only been, really, you've been kind of laid back on the, hey, look at this data log for me stuff. You must be learning how to read those yourself. I only did one of those the other day, and I'm like, man, I haven't had one of these from Beely in like a couple weeks or almost a month or something, but.
Well, I got some of the guys are doing a better job of being able to look at it and interpret and sending me screenshots.
Yeah.
So
I think people are learning.
The only time guys have to bring you into it is when I can't get quality screenshots, or they want to try and log like 40 PIDs on a screen at a time, and I can't see crap.
Yeah.
You know, it looks like
it's nice to have the log and be able to customize the view yourself.
Right. So. Yeah, I just need to get to the point where I need to just get the Holly software loaded up on something so I can pull logs down and look at them myself for guys.
Yep, you just need to plug through them a little bit. It's an easy logger to learn an easy viewer. It kind of meets you in the middle. It's not the most feature rich, but it's easy to learn. So I like it. I can get around in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, shout out to Michael Metajasic. Got to meet him this weekend.
Oh, dude. So did you check out Ahmad's car that we were all working on then? The
What
C7
color?
Vet.
Which one was it? The color?
Is
Tell
it
me
the
the color.
Blue?
Is it gray?
It's blue.
Oh, I forgot you haven't seen it in person.
No,
You
I've tuned it
remote-tuned
remotely. I don't know. I saw pictures of him sort of by it. I thought it was blue.
There were some badass ones there, and I think I did see it. But no, we pulled up in the lanes to get in the place. Like, you know, the line's damn near out to the street, and then some dude in a truck next to me, like, "Hey, Ryan, what's up?" I'm like, "Who the hell are you?" He's like, "It's Mike Metajasic," and I was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah,
We're
they
both
actually
from
were on the
same hometown.
podcast. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, he lives in around the Durham area, so he did for a while there. So he's
Yeah.
like, I know everybody in the car scene around this area, and I've never heard of Bull City Speed. I know everything about Durham. I'm like, it's because it's not really a shop, man. It's just kind of like I'm just a dickhead with a camera, and I really love myself. So.
What you should have said is we're a shop that charges normal rates, and he'd be like, "Oh, I wouldn't know who you are then."
Yeah.
If I can't get in there
But no,
free.
he was a cool guy. They were shooting the shit a little bit.
Maddie
back and
brothers are
forth.
badass. I like working with them. They know how to get it done for cheap.
But yeah, it was a good weekend overall, man. Good to put a bunch of faces in the names, and just the video is going to be coming out probably this week. And I literally, like, it was kind of an emotional. Dude, I've been busting my ass for this thing, so you'll see. I don't cry because I don't. I'm a man. I don't. Do that,
You probably cried.
But it's.
I like
the
your award
reaction
acceptance
videos.
speech. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, you like that.
That was killer.
But yeah, it'll be a good video. I'll make sure to post it up everywhere.
Nice. Nicely done.
Do you make fun of Logan in it at some point in time?
I do a little bit here and there, man. It's just so easy though, you know. It's not.
Cool.
It's like picking on the little kids. It's like, you know, if you're 6'5" and you go and play basketball with a bunch of middle schoolers,
Right.
It's too easy. Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, no, I hope he gets his car, dude. That car is killer looking. That's the first time I've ever seen that car in person.
It looks all right. I don't mean the taillights on it are a little rice boy, but you know,
I would never.
suits him.
Yeah, I would never tell him. to
RealTuners
his
does not
face that it
endorse the
looks good.
opinions or necessarily, but whatever. I need some fine print just to
It's
hit on a
just
hot button.
Logan. Don't worry about it.
No, it's not him I'm worried about.
He's not
It's
a real
your
person.
racial epithets that you Southern people just tend to drop. No.
What was racial about calling his car a ricer?
I don't know.
What the?
I'm all
that's
about
not
being
even- that's-
all correct now and not getting
You can
any
quit
more
that
letters.
shit. It's starting to get aggravating
right.
because that has nothing to do with anybody's race. That's a mindset, for crying out loud.
Yeah, kind of like toe mirrors.
Exactly. See?
That big wing on the back is so they can sit in their bumper and use it as a table to eat all their salad and vegan vegetable stuff.
Right? They're rice bowls.
You're mixing them up with the vape dudes, the Subarus.
Well, between that and the Lambo guys that do that, you know.
So we need to talk about something, man. We could take some questions on it. It might be a short night. We could wrap it up early too. Nobody says we got to do 2 hours. I just did not. Well, our original guest we had hoped for actually couldn't make it. So trying to get Frank back on here.
He's a go. It was a little bit short to put him on tonight.
Yeah,
but, he'd come over to the shop today and we chatted and he's all in.
Good. Oops.
The hell was that?
That was my phone. Sorry, that was something on my end. Bad engineering.
Everybody drink.
No, trying to make it so I can listen to the audio stream. You can tell I'm burnt out, man. I've been thrashing all day. I need to get Nagel on here. I need to just call him, have him join the
No,
meeting.
he's too busy being antisocial doing something.
Dude, I'll tell you what, dude,
he can't come hang out with
lives
us no
out of a
more.
box and travels around and wires up people's cars and hasn't been home like 4 days for like 2 or 3 months. Something
Good Lord.
crazy. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I'm like, man, he's burning the candle at both ends. It's just stuff piled up like crazy. Wiring cars, building motors. Busy. It's good to be busy. But man, yeah, he was over there. He was the one wiring up Andy Leach's car, that Barracuda. Which watch my Facebook. That we'll put some put some really good videos out of that thing. We're going to tune it up here in the next couple days. Looks like we took it for a first test drive this afternoon. But anyway.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked. It's fun to play with the Hellcats. First time I played with one of those engines on a standalone or with a factory ECU. First time I've played with a Hellcat crate motor.
I'd like to fiddle with one of them in something that didn't weigh 2 tons.
It's obviously got like grandma cam in it because it idles at 700 RPM and pulls, all the vacuum.
Yeah, it's just like the LSA and the LS9s.
Right.
I mean, that
Super
motor right
tame.
that motor's 100 horsepower with a cam swap, guaranteed, same boost level. You might have to pull it up to get the boost back, but I guarantee you a camshaft in that engine's 100 horse to the tire without even thinking twice about it.
Wonder if I can roll some video here of Andy's car. Dun, dun, dun. I'm slow, but I'm expensive. Hold on. Trying to get back to my page
that might
here.
as well have been. It's not very big around, but it sure is short.
Right. Exactly.
Oh,
No, it's the IBM motto. We may be
Before we-
slow, but we're expensive.
hey, while we got a break, I know it's been making the rounds all over social media, but Jake Jarvis, the stolen
Talk about
Trans Am.
this. Yeah.
So, back when we did the tuning class at TIC, Jake was there with that badass Trans Am. We met him, super nice guy, hung out with him all weekend. If you guys haven't seen the car, it's pretty much breaking the internet before it was even stolen, but it was pretty much the baddest car that TIC has ever built. Thing made like 1,700 horsepower to the tire, 6-speed car. It's a pewter Trans Am.
Super
car.
badass.
He had it on the dyno at the Friday night meet out at Car Takeover.
Dude, he had it on the
then-
dyno when I came up there to set up for my class back in January at TIC Performance. They were actually we were helping put a little bit of startup and warm up tune on that and validating some things.
So that dude has busted his ass, and that car, like a lot of us, it's his pride and joy. Poured his heart and soul, and obviously a substantial amount of money into it as well. But somebody decided that they liked it a little bit more than he did, and they relieved him of it. And Saturday morning, when he came out to go to the event for Car Takeover, truck, trailer, car, and his kid's 4-wheeler, all gone. So the latest update is they recovered the truck and the trailer and the 4-wheeler down in South Carolina, but the car is still missing. Right now, it's like a $15,000 reward for information leading to the safe return of the car. So if you haven't seen it on social media, if you see that post and you haven't already done so, share it, get the news out there. Like, let's try and get this dude his car back. He is a good dude, and he just wants his baby back. And I can't say that I can relate, but I can totally understand where that dude's coming from.
Oh, that's gonna suck.
It's such a terrible, it's a heartbreaking deal for that guy.
Yep. So I'm showing video stream here of the Barracuda. You can kind of see it. You can also see the Salt Flats car that Cal Automotive is concurrently working on and getting ready for Bonneville here in a month. Exactly a month, right? Anyway, so this, of course, you can't really see much of the wiring harness, but Brad did a killer job on the wiring harness on this thing. Yeah, there's Brad. And so it's a Hellcat crate motor. But anyway, I mean, there's not much to it other than it's a little different with the dual throttles, the dual electronic throttles, ones that boost bypass. That I think we're going to change up how we're controlling that. The default way that Holly does it, I don't know. I think it's going to be soggy at part throttle until the valve closes all the way. So we're going to work on that. But anyway, otherwise, looks pretty good.
Check your messages.
Yep. Okay. Check your messages usually means I'm screwing something up.
On the chat now. I got.
Yep. Hold on.
Just sent you something non-broadcast.
Oh, non-broadcast.
I just didn't want to say it before we say yeah.
I don't think I got it. My Facebook messages or the
chat.
Okay, hold on. I'm looking. Yeah. Okay. Like now? You want to get him on now?
Yeah, I'll work on it right now.
Do you want to give him the invite to the meeting,
with him.
or you want to?
Yeah, that's what I was going to do.
Yeah. Okay. Share freely. Sounds like we might have someone to get on. If anybody else wants to get on and shoot the shit with us, jump right in, man. We have the capability.
So while he's dialing
This guy's been out at PRI a bunch with the booth, and he's always out at trade shows and stuff. He's got a really kick-ass cylinder head demo thing that he does.
And that's why I thought I knew that name. Okay.
Yeah, he's the guy with the clear approach.
Right. I saw him do some stuff, I think, for Ray Barton, a long time ago. But anyway.
Oh, hey, did we talk about, you guys might have talked about it on a show and I missed it, but that Eric Yost and Team Biggin made the cut for Horsepower Wars?
Yes.
We did talk about it. Yeah.
Yes.
Starts on Monday, so good luck to all those guys, dude.
Did you see, he also win the SCT, the Street Car Takeover Dyno competition?
Yeah, apparently he did.
Nice
and I
job,
can
Eric.
totally see why.
Yeah.
Dude, he drove that car, this maniac.
I'm sure he
in the
drove it
same
there.
class. He drove that thing on the street cruise on methanol the whole time.
Yeah.
That thing is badass. He's got that thing worked out.
That's
No,
the
I
way
can
to
totally
do it right
believe it.
there.
Actually, I can totally believe it. You can tune it on methanol and have it be.
Oh yeah, I'm jealous.
And my buddy Bobby drives around his little love truck on methanol all the time, no problems.
Chris Kenny drives a night train around. I mean, he posted pictures the other day, and he took night train out and was driving it around town. That car's,
JP drives his all over the place.
yeah.
Hey
Hello.
guys, Chad and I are both going to be out at the Horsepower Wars deal next week.
Nice. Okay. That'll be kind of cool. Maybe we can get some whatever updates they'll allow you to share.
Yeah,
Curious to see how it goes.
Eric was telling me about how that whole deal is going to work out. I don't know if I can talk about how it's going to be set up, so I'm not going to overstep my boundaries there. But it's kind of cool. It's not just going to be give them a car and let them go at it. Like you're going to have to work to get primo choice, and that's about as much as I'll say.
Yeah, I can't say a lot either, but I'm going to be there actually doing actual work on all 4 cars.
Really?
Oh, sweet.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Anybody want some brakes? Come on in. Free parts? Hell yeah.
Yeah, and Chad is also at a roll. I think do you guys know that already? Or
No.
Did he say it at some point?
No way. After giving him such a hard time, where they're like, that's pretty funny. When Scott Parker was on here a couple weeks ago, Chad was giving him a hard time.
Yeah, so they allow them to have coaches for each team who can't do work, but who can be like, moral support and advice and whatever the hell else it is.
Is Chad going to be one of those guys?
And they
Yeah,
picked
see?
Chad to be one of those?
He's just
Yeah.
going to be berating everybody. Like, why are you doing that? It's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
He's just going to be sitting there.
This is the guy trying to spray
going, Why the hell are
250
you doing that?
Yeah, he's trying to
Like-
spray a 250 shot through a TBI, though. This will be funny.
No offense to any of the other coaches or advisors, but I feel like if you get assigned to like, Yost's team, that'd be the easiest thing. You just might as well just sit back and drink beer and watch them work.
Well, actually, this is a role that the teams got to pick themselves.
Gotcha.
I'm anxious to hear this. Are they doing live streaming on this stuff, or is it going to be a produced deal? Okay, so
Great. Well,
something to watch.
there goes productivity at the shop for a week.
Get the big screen set up. I'll put the projector up here.
Oh, geez.
There's going to be lots of live streaming, all kinds of stuff.
I think that
That'd be
has the
fun.
potential to be pretty cool, just because of the people they picked. You know what I mean, Bill? I think that. Seriously, there's some interesting dudes that are serious. They're going to build seriously cool stuff. I don't. Yeah, I'm just really curious. I mean, you got NASCAR level guys on there, and guys who've been drag racing forever, and you got Disco Dean, who those guys are. They know how to. They got some tricks up their sleeves, and Jimmy Bowling.
Cool. So I just talked to Alvin.
Yeah.
He said he's driving. He's going to be stopping here in a few minutes, and he would call in as soon as he's stopped and can
Nice.
get everything on his phone and call in. So
He can also call in to my phone as well if he wanted to. If
Okay.
he just dial
See
that.
which
if it's
way it
easier
works.
than the- easier than
I'll
the
send
other.
him that number too.
Okay. Groovy. So, what else, man? I got a class coming up with Mo. I see Mo is on here tonight. I bet you $10 says Mo is underneath his wife's car, pulling out the intercooler that he just installed like not even a week ago, maybe. Did you see that? She hit a raccoon.
Oh, Lord.
Busted up her Subaru. Yeah.
Oh.
Fucking
No, we already
raccoons.
fixed it.
You already got it?
Yeah, we already got all that stuff on there.
Didn't it tear out a fender well or something like that? Sounded like it was.
Yeah, she drives that car every day, so we already had to fix all that stuff last night.
Nice. Good job, dude. Fucking raccoons. Hopefully she doesn't hit anything else. I actually like her CB. It's kind of funny.
Thing sounds wicked in person.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because she's just like, there's something wrong. I really like this car. I don't know why. It's not usually she's got way more horsepower underfoot, but I'm sure they'll take care of that. Pretty sure they're working on it.
What's your favorite vape flavor? Strawberry.
And if you haven't met Stephanie yet, right? But she's pretty comical. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. She's sharp. What else? Anybody got any?
I'll give you $1 to ask her that question in person.
No, I'm all good. I'm good. I'm a gentleman. And I don't know how big her husband is, so.
You see Dahlquist is on Facebook posting all this like strawberry pie stuff that he's sitting there clogging his arteries on right now. He can't be here tonight because he had to be at home.
Oh yeah, he does. What he said, I don't have internet at the house, dude. I about dropped my phone.
He doesn't. I go to his house, I have to bring my Wi-Fi hotspot. And he lives in a neighborhood where he just doesn't need it because the wife doesn't want it. She works an IT job, or did. I think but she works at a technology-based company. And he's got Mark's got like fiber to the desktop at his shop, which is awesome. I love we've done a couple shows from up there at his place, and that always works better there because you have so much bandwidth. But at home, his house, he has no internet. He's like, I fucking don't want internet. I don't want to get on Facebook, and I want to get home and just do like normal people stuff. I thought that's kind of fun.
Scott, you don't understand. We're on the grid.
Yeah. Off the grid. What did you say would be a funny TV show for us to start where we could probably get more listeners if that was our thing?
Oh, yeah.
Is having Dahlquist just test out anything that's technology?
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember what I called it. I had a name for it, but it was just, we just hand Mark the latest, like most advanced technological advancements, here,
Sure.
give him here, Mark, here's an iPad, like figure
Listen
out
to a
how
guy with
it's-
a North Dakota accent trying to figure out how to use a Walkman. Right?
Because it was like, I just figured out how to put, hey, Scott, I just figured out how to put Pandora. I can't do the accent, but he put Pandora on his
You're a little
phone.
bit too
They were
Boston on top of the North Dakota. You got to get a little Canada, Dakota. You got to kind of mix that with a little Boston, Michigan. I don't know. Your Upper Peninsula, Michigan.
It was when he was talking about put Pandora on his phone. I just figured out how to install Pandora. It sounds terrible.
Oh, he didn't like
That's
it.
what he said.
Right. Welcome to 1998. Oh. We are really no guests, really slow tonight. So sorry for people if we're all just burnt out for the day.
But here's a tech question for you.
Go ahead.
How rich is too rich on the stock bottom end 5.3 running Bosch 210s? Can't get the average pulse width below 1.9 milliseconds. AFRs are
That's going to be
frequently near,
super fat at idle.
Yeah, 10.0 on the gas scale. I think I'll be able to dial it in at higher boost using more of the injector, but can I hurt the motor if it's too rich at low load?
Running it
in
too much.
RPM?
Yeah, you can. You'll put fuel in. You'll know by the oil smelling like fuel. Running it in the 10s at idle, that's too much. That's too. Why can't you get the pulse width down? Those specific injectors are good to like 0.8 or 0.9 milliseconds on a typical 12-volt car. So figure out what's going on there.
Yeah, unless you got some kind of weird voltage to the injectors going on, something funky,
stupid.
that would be the only reason not.
Did he say what ECU?
Doesn't. Yeah, Doug, if you're listening still, what ECU, what fuel?
Listen to you, Rye. Listen to you go. I'm going to load up some early audio of Rye, and then I'm just going to post it up with that picture of him that's actually Rye Klemp with the mullet in like 3rd grade or whatever. and I'm just going to be like, listen to how Rye has grown. It's our little sunflower.
Yeah, before I was just like, hey guys, this is the latest thing that happened in news.
Yeah. I'm running 40 degrees of timing to get up on the brake. You think that's okay? Or should I put 5 more in it? No, I don't. You probably didn't do that one, but a lot of people do.
That was close. I was about to try anything at some point with that 4L80 converter. Let's see. Any other class in the Kansas area in the fall?
Yes, we'll do another KC one if you can't make the one here next week. The next week one only has like 2 seats left. We're keeping that kind of smaller because we got a nice little air-conditioned facility to do it in, and I don't want it to be all crammed. So if Mo is still up for that, are we still on for that, Mo? He's still under a car.
Yeah.
He's always doing something.
Had to reach over for the phone.
No, Mo is busy all the time, so I know this. But
you would figure he'd just keep like a Bluetooth headset on. He could just reach up and hit the button when he needs to talk.
Oh, yeah. If I could actually press a mute or whatever on a Bluetooth, I'd probably do that.
you need to get a mic, a remote, or a Bluetooth with a mute button.
Doug followed up with, he's got
GoFundMe for his Amazon purchase of a Bluetooth headset with a mute button.
We'll start a GoFundMe. I wrecked my car. GoFundMe.
Yeah.
Doug followed up with, he's got a 411 ECU, so stock ECU.
And it won't go below 1.9? That's you
What's
need
that?
to talk to James Short. He said it wouldn't go below 1.9 milliseconds. I'd figure out why you can't get it less than that.
Are there people running those injectors on stock ECUs?
Yeah,
I've heard
yeah, they're running
issues with
gigantic ones, and I
that.
thought you should be able to have a minimum time. The injectors will support a minimum time of about half that. So, figure that one out. What else? Oh, I got to use my new Picoscope. I think I talked about that already, but we're going to work on a webinar. When I do webinars in the fall here, another like 2 months or so, we'll start doing them again. We will do one on using a scope. We'll figure something
Nerd
out.
alert.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know, man. You make fun of the nerds until it's time to.
Useful tool.
Didn't I? I scoped something on Derek's truck with my little Matco handheld thing. And that was when we figured out grounds and power rerouting on that and cleaned it right the hell up, like in 10 minutes. I remember that. That thing, his dad's even like, that thing's never got up on the brake like that. So there you go. Everybody makes fun of the nerds until the car won't get up on the brake.
Here's a good Bewley question. What oil would you recommend for 1,000 to 1,200 horsepower LS motor?
I'm going to step out for 5 minutes. Will you guys fight about this? I'm just going to check the streams, but go ahead.
All right. I mean, I like VR1.
Yep.
What weight?
Something with a good amount of zinc in it. Depends on the clearance.
Yeah, weight depends on clearances. You know, if somebody's throwing together like a stock bottom end deal, depending on the mileages, I tell them to start at 1540. If the clearances are opened up depending on the oil pressure, depending on the oil pressure, go up to 2050 or maybe down to a 530. Just depends on what it is. It's just got to be something that can stand up to the heat.
Yeah.
And like some of the oils these days, I don't necessarily care for the new CK4 formulations. I like the CJ4. It worked out pretty well. But VR1 works really well. It seems to handle the heat better than about anything else.
And it has a good content, which is important when you have a motor that has some clearances that are wider.
Now, do you need that zinc content after the initial break-in? Does it continue to help you?
Absolutely.
It does,
Still helps.
especially it helps with keeping the turbo because you've got a journal bearing situation there on the turbocharger. Like the big zinc content stuff, like especially with the diesel oils, a lot of the diesels are still flat tappet cam. Like a 5.9 Cummins is a solid flat tappet camshaft. CK4 Ford has issued a service bulletin not to run those in Power Strokes because of the reduced content in the CK4 formulation. One of the oils that I had a couple of guys tried in turbo cars is the new DR40 from Driven, which is a semi-synthetic 1540 diesel oil that they came out with. And they've had really good success. That's standing up to the heat really well.
What about is the LS30 that they make?
It's a little thin for a turbo car.
Okay.
I mean, the naturally aspirated LS stuff runs on that LS30 Driven really, really well. And it lives really, really well, especially in the aluminum block stuff that might have clearances a little bit tighter. So I prefer something a little bit heavier in the turbo cars. Of course, the turbo cars are usually a little bit wider on the clearances, especially with the 15, the high mileage 150,000 mile stuff, not 15,000 mile stuff. Good Lord.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you can get into the bigger clearances and stuff, like the driven, the DR40, the DT40 is good too, Steve. But like that diesel oil from Driven, I use it in my own personal truck, and I've been impressed with what it's held up to after putting some miles on it, and it seems to handle the heat really, really well.
The other thing to remember about oil is it's not just about pressure, it's about volume. So you can have 10 pounds of oil pressure at idle and still be just fine. Not a single problem in the world if you have clearances that are kind of wide. I've seen them idle quite lower. Stock LS motors, they're like GM factory spec when they test. If they actually check the pressure, if it's more than like 4 PSI at idle, it's good. Even though most of the time we all see a gauge that shows 30 or 40, their minimum is supposed to be like, if it's better, it only takes like 4 in order for it to be considered still safe at idle. So it has almost nothing to do with pressure itself. Pressure and flow directly follow each other up to the point where you start gaining pressure because there's not a big enough hole for the oil to go through. But you don't need a whole lot of pressure.
No, volume's the important thing, especially on the turbo cars, because you not only have the engine to feed, now you have the turbo you have to feed as well.
Right.
So that's the reason why a lot of times you'll see me recommend, if somebody wants to put an oil pump, when you put an oil pump on something, we won't do a 10-295. We'll do a 10-296 and then swap the relief spring back to the stock pressure relief. You don't need the pressure because moving the volume will make the pressure, but you still have to have the volume in order to feed. You got to have oil to the turbo, make sure you have a good supply to the turbo and a good volume supply to the engine itself. So don't really worry too much about the pressure too often.
Yeah, and volume only becomes an issue if you're draining the pan completely in a pass because it's too much volume and not enough drain back.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a couple of other things, which is every time you put an oil leak in the motor. Now, by oil leak, I'm being facetious, but I mean if you've got pin oilers, if you've got valve spring sprayers, if you've got everything else that might need volume of oil, you continue to have to up the volume. And if you're running any kind of vacuum deal on the motor, you have to increase the size of the pickup area in the pickup tube to compensate for the vacuum pulling against the oil mass. So you've got all bunch of things that play into that equation.
Yeah, I mean, 50 pounds of oil pressure at 7,000 RPM is enough to keep an LS happy and keep it from tearing stuff up. But you have to have enough of a volume, to keep the turbo fed, to keep the engine fed, and just keep everything happy.
Shoo, I'm seeing 80 at the end of my pass.
The only thing that worries me about that is the volume you're pulling out of the pan.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you're pulling the pan, if you're pulling that kind of volume out of the pan to move enough oil to make that kind of pressure in the LS, there might not be much left in the pan.
I'm with you. I have a AccuSump sitting on the shelf.
Might not be a bad idea, especially if you're doing an F body pan.
Yeah, it's a stock pan. It's stock baffling and everything. That's why I got it. Yeah. I got it for a deal. It's just been sitting on it. Another thing I like to do too. I'm not the oil expert per se by any stretch of the imagination, but what I do with my car is every couple of track days or whatever, I don't change the oil, but I will change the filter, cut the filter open just to see what's going on inside of the motor, put a new filter in there and top it off. And every 2 filter changes, then I change the oil as well. So a lot of people will just change the oil altogether when the oil is perfectly fine, just to see, is there any bearing material, and take a look at it. You can just cut your filter open and double check it, and you don't have to put 5.5, 6 quarts of oil in your car or however much your capacity is. You just top off that little bit that you use and put another filter on the thing. So it's something that I never thought of it. I was changing oil like left and right and wasting it. but I wasn't wasting it. It was actually the way my driveway works. It's kind of like hand-me-downs. The oil from the race car goes into the blue truck, and then that truck gets the oil put into the C10, and I'm very cheap.
That's obvious.
I'm just kidding. I don't do that.
Steve, when would I use the high pressure relief spring? Engines that end up with a Moroso pan and something that's had the bottom end blueprinted on it and had the clearances opened way up for big power. Like say somebody takes a stock block deal and we've got main clearances that are over 3 and we've got rod clearances that are, 2.5 to 3, then I would leave the stock pressure relief spring in a 10-296 or a 10-355 when it's, when we've got some clearances to give cranks and rods room to run at 8,000 RPM.
Isn't it if you have a vacuum pump on a pan, isn't the vacuum also pulling oil out of the bearings? There's a question we got here, as well as pulling it away from the pickup.
It could if you're trying to pull a whole bunch of vacuum. You just have to, temper, your attempts to pull vacuum.
If you have the right regulator on your vacuum pump, you're not gonna let the vacuum pump run away and starve anything.
Right.
It's not.
What's happening is you're not necessarily pulling it off of there. You're allowing the oil to flow off because now it has no restrictions of airflow. When you lower the vacuum in the engine, you're basically decreasing the atmosphere. All the oil flows better when there's less atmosphere.
Mopar Matty, once oil is up to temp. Oh, this is a good one. I kind of have a basic understanding of it, but you guys probably have a better one than I do. When you're talking about OW40 and just for example, so like OW40 oil and 15W40, once they're warmed up, aren't they the same viscosity? They're both 40 weight, right? Is that basically how that works?
Yes and no. The number isn't a strict viscosity. It's kind of a scale. I'll see if I can find a picture that we can maybe share.
Consult Google for accurate information.
I just got to find a picture of it.
I've read in that at one point just out of curiosity, but I've never paid a whole bunch of attention to it. So I can't accurately answer that one.
Where is that image?
I run the oil the engine builder tells me to.
That's what I always say. Whatever Brad says to run. Huh. Oh, I'm back, by the way. So, exciting. Hey.
You're here?
Yeah.
So if this conversation is interesting enough, a really good guy to have on for this would be Lake Speed.
Lake Speed, yeah.
Who works at Driven.
God, what a badass name.
I know, right? Is that his real name?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he actually was a race driver. Many people apparently don't know that.
I've heard that name. Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. Oh, God.
What's that guy's name?
Clark, there's a picture in our Facebook chat of the different weights of oils and how they are not the same
Got it.
the same temperature.
Oh, 1 second.
Yeah, it does sound glib to say go with what the engine builder says, but people, to John's comment earlier, that understand what's going on with the clearances in a particular engine and all these other things, then you can get it right. And then there's also horses for courses in terms of, is the car a roll off the race, the trailer warm up, make a lap, or is it a true street car or a drag week car or a street car or whatever the hell it is car? And those make a difference too.
I'm trying to find the other article that I found that talks about this stuff in detail. Back a few years ago, I really looked into this to try to figure it out myself because I was always wondering, and I read a whole bunch of stuff. I don't remember it all, so I don't want to say things that aren't true, but it's a really, really good article. If I can find it, I'll post a link to it.
Yeah, let me know. I'm able to get them up pretty quick now.
Just say it. I do it all the time. Fake it till you make it.
I'm just waiting. Like, am I going to get yelled at by Brad?
Yeah. Higher bearing speeds, meaning larger pins, tend to favor a little bit heavier oils.
Yeah.
Just so you can keep the oil film working better against the higher bearing speeds. So a lot of the trend toward lighter oils has followed the trend toward smaller bearings, pins, all that stuff. So
Right.
if you're doing traditional big motors, they're going to want a little more weight of oil and how the viscosity is set up. And like John was saying, 3,000 mains and 2.5 journals, I run that on the big block, and therefore you can get an idea what kind of loads are on that LS because of the turbo that requires that to be opened up like that. So that's all part of really thinking about what is it you're doing, as opposed to listening to people, I don't know, talking on a podcast or on the internet, giving you advice about your combination. So
yeah,
I mean, take for example, let's take for example the 481X. This engine runs main clearances 4 or above, and it runs rod clearances like 3 and above. And most of the guys that run that engine are running a straight 70 weight oil in it, So, and those guys can make 110 to 120 pounds of oil pressure. So, it's just about your particular engine, your particular set of circumstances that you're trying to work in. Your average LS engine doesn't need 2050 weight in it. Especially if it's a low mile engine, because the clearances just aren't there to require oil of that viscosity to keep your pressure stable and go from there. But something that's opened up, when you're trying to feeding the turbo takes a lot of volume away from the engine itself. So you just have to compensate for all the things that are needing to see oil volume.
Basically, guys, there's more to it than just pour your oil pump and put Rotella in it.
Yeah, pretty much. Rotella's a good oil, though. Rotella's been, a really good oil for a long time. But
full disclosure, that's what I run.
Yeah, it's not always the end all be all.
We did our power tour break-in procedure with a bottle of Lucas break-in and 2 different grades of Rotella, because the only thing we got to do with the car was drive around the shop twice and put it on the trailer to go to the event. So one of the things I got out of talking to Lake Speed was, talking about break-in, focusing on kind of this, hours as opposed to whatever. So we did the first round, and instead of throwing away the oil after 20 minutes, we did what you just said, Rye, which was crack open the filter, take a look at that, get it up to an hour of runtime, and then change the oil and put a filter in it. Then look at a filter again after 5 hours of runtime. And then at 10 hours of runtime, we actually went a little long. Then we did another oil change. And we'll do one more step to get to, the full synthetic, which will be what we'll ultimately run it on. This being a 521 cubic inch big block.
Yeah, that's exactly how I did mine. You just run it, get all the junk out of it, and get it up to temp, change the filter, cut it open, take a look at it, and then I slapped another filter on it and took it to the track.
Bearing speed plays whoever's doing this, bearing speed plays a role in proper oil selection too. How much shear is the oil going to see, at the face of the bearing? Because the actual bearing speed for a given engine is different between a 521-inch big block Ford with a 3-inch main and a LS engine with a 255 main. You don't put the same oil in a naturally aspirated LS with 188 rod journals as you would if it's got a 200 rod journal in it to get journal overlap for a big horsepower turbo combo. So there's just a lot of different things to look at. And
something else,
to pick something that, trying to pick something that's going to sand up and last a good while for you.
So I see Scotty McDonald is on here again and pointing out something that I have been told by many engine builders, and preheat your fluids, preheat the motor up before you actually start the thing. Make a race motor last forever. I thought that was interesting.
Because circulate
what's
everybody do? what do you do? What do you see everybody do at the racetrack? They start the car, idle it in the pits to warm the fluid up. Well, that's that many, that's that much cycling on the engine.
A lot of run time, that you don't need to do, and especially when it's cold and it's not happy. That it's funny. I tuned a Cosworth DFV, which is this late 1970s Formula One type engine IndyCar thing, and it had a typewriter written and mimeograph copied, like we used to get back in the 80s in school. Remember those mimeograph machines where they'd crank them to make copies? You had to make like a negative. That old. Oh God! Well, yeah, I'm just old enough. They were just going on.
I remember what came before those.
Oh Jesus!
So anyway,
Bill remembers the Abacus, but anyway, so they now. Anyway, so the Cosworth DFV had like a 2.5, 3 hour, something like that startup procedure where it was like bring water up to this temp, then bring the oil up to this temp, circulate it for so long with this pump and this much flow. It was hilarious, all this detail. And finally, after like 2 hours of bringing temps up, when everything was right, you spin the motor a little bit and get oil pressure up, and then you go ahead and can start it, and then it would tell you warm the engine up at like 3,500 RPM, between 3,500 and 4,500 RPM with swinging the throttle. Anything that avoids mechanical clatter, don't let it idle at normal RPM until it's warmed up. All kinds of crazy shit for the engines not to wear out. And they must have some pretty crazy clearances in those things. But
so
not just to wear out, but to harm stuff. Yeah, I mean, so all the sophisticated series still do that shit.
Right.
Yeah, it's not
to rattle the valve train around at idle. Yeah. Microfish, yeah, buddy. Jesse Real.
225 number is our guest.
Oh, gotcha.
He's trying to talk.
Can you hear us?
Let's see.
You got
Alvin Calhoun, are you guys there?
You got it.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Scott. Introduce your bud.
Can you hear us, Alvin?
Yes, I hear
you. Can you hear? Perfect. So I just want to introduce this guy. This is Alvin Calhoun. He's a head porter out of Louisiana. I met him while I was working down at the shop with Earl Scheck-Snyder. Amazing guy, really, really cool guy. Does some really, really good head porting. I've seen his heads on some really, really fast cars.
That's cool.
And he does some really cool stuff. He's got this really cool clear cylinder head thing that he shows people what the flow is doing, which is really, really kick ass because most people don't understand what's happening in there. They just, I turn on my engine, magic happens, power comes out. So, and he can kind of explain a little bit about what's really happening and, some of the things he does and things he looks for. I'll let him do all the talking because he's really a wizard at this stuff.
Welcome aboard, Alvin.
Okay, well, I think that's a lot, but I do try hard and I work at this all the time. But I tell people, I'll start by saying that horsepower in an engine I always tell people that it's in head, intake, and camshaft. A bottom end is really great, but its primary function is to hold together and don't blow up.
Right.
If you have the proper clearances, good lubricant, and good components, then a bottom end will hold up.
Yeah.
And I tell people that there are not large amounts of horsepower to be found there. They have low friction lubricants. They have ways to control windage, dry sump, lightweight components, and all that. But there's really not a lot to be gained in a bottom end. There's not a whole lot of horsepower to be gained there. But still, there are things that are being learned all the time about camshaft design and cylinder head design and intake manifold design. If you look at what the OEMs have done with all sorts of runner length and the runners inside of a box, and they've tried all kinds of things, but they are still learning too, just as we are. But really, the head and the intake, those components intrigue me more than probably anything else. And about 3 years ago, I had a discussion with some GM engineers at the PRI show, and we were discussing the Chevrolet 6.2 liter LS3 head. and the head has a huge runner volume. And what I've done on my own flow bench is that I've taken that head and put clay in the floor of it and start adding more and more clay. And I had added quite a bit of clay before the runner, before the flow started dropping off. And that lets me know that the runner volume is bigger than it needs to be. I suggested this to the GM engineers, and they looked at me like, who is this guy? What's he talking about? And they told me about all the thousands of hours of research that they had into that head, and they believed that that was the best design. Now, that's what inspired me to build this clear head and to put smoke through it so that I could see how the air is moving through there. But since Edelbrock has introduced a head, it's an LS3 rectangular port head with a smaller intake runner volume. So apparently other people are paying attention to that too. But I'll shut up and let some other people talk for a minute.
Well, yeah, I've been saying the LS3 head's too damn big for years.
Yes.
It's way too big. It's way bigger than it needs to be. The LS3 is overheaded and overvalved. But that, in my opinion, they didn't do it from a performance standpoint. They would say that it was done to reduce pumping loss, which that's almost from an emissions standpoint, because they play with a different set of rules than we play with. They have things to look at, and they have aspects of what they're doing that they have to take into consideration that we don't.
Yeah.
I've got your video up right now, the clear cylinder head, by the way. It's playing right now.
The Edelbrock head is I've had the opportunity to look at it and fiddle with it a little bit, look at the design and try and I think it's great because not only is it a smaller runner, I worked with Gavin Simcoe at SPS Cylinder Heads, and he's got an LS3 base cylinder head that is smaller than stock. The CSA is smaller than stock. The volume is identical to stock, and we've got a smaller valve than stock, and it flows more air. And in my opinion, it performs better than a stock LS3 head. But yeah, the engineers, when on their stuff, I don't think that they're not looking for all out 100% performance on what they're doing, because they've got emissions to take into consideration and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's so many other aspects. I mean, when you talk about the adiabatic efficiency, and you get into, what does it do from a wall wetting standpoint, and what doesn't it do, and what will it do to meet the emissions cycle and the mileage targets that they've established. It's crutched 5 ways from sideways, and yet they're still getting, specific output performance that makes the old, stuff from back in the day just look sad. So, I give them a lot of credit for at least having stuff that's a hell of a great starting point.
Oh yeah,
compared to what we used to have to deal with.
That's a no. That's a given as far as that's concerned. But I honestly think it could be so much better.
But
when you look at it from a pure performance standpoint.
And Alvin, that's what you're doing, right? Is a pure performance standpoint, correct?
That is correct. But also, I tell people this, that the same discipline or the same skill set that's required to make a powerful and efficient engine can also be used to make an engine more fuel efficient. Now, I realize that this is not a part of the conversation, but I hear people talk about fuel economy, and it boils down to efficiency, operating efficiency in an engine. And now they're having trouble getting certain, I guess, the CAFE standards, to where they have to have a certain fleet corporate average fuel economy rating. But I'm old enough, I'm an old guy, and I'm old enough to remember that in 1986, Nissan had a little car with, I think, a 1.2 liter engine, and it was called a Sentra, and it had, I think, a 59 mile EPA rating, 59 miles per gallon. And this car had a carburetor on it. And you can't tell me that now, with all the sophisticated engine control, that vehicles can't achieve better fuel economy than what they do.
I think part of it is the weight. If you talk to an automotive engineer, they're going to tell you that because you got to have such structural integrity, the cars have got to weigh so much. That's a big part of it. I know they work.
Yeah, that's true.
Now we have 5,000 pound cars in the factory instead of 2,900 pound car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that point at all.
Yeah, if they could get the cars back lighter, which I think some of them are trying to do. I mean, Ford's doing the whole aluminum body thing, which unfortunately is showing some good and bad points. It tears a little easier. I mean, but it's lighter, so it helps. But it still comes out to be a 5,000 pound truck in the end. When where do you find the weight? You can't take out the safety features that are required.
Yeah, and you can't make them smaller because everybody likes the bigger truck. But Alvin's point is exactly right in that, there were very high mileage vehicles, and something like that Sentra SE back in the day could do that, and it weighed under 2,000 pounds, so that helped. And they didn't have to meet the emission standards, which unfortunately the bizarre thing about emission standards is when you regulate the NOx side of the equation, you end up becoming less efficient from a fuel mileage standpoint. So the stuff about emissions has trumped, if I can use that word anymore, even the concerns about fuel mileage in that development cycle. So there's just a horrific amount of stuff. And yet, you can go down now, and that car probably made 68 horsepower or something like that. And the current version of the Sentra makes 3 times the power, weighs half again as much, and no, it doesn't have the fuel mileage, but it'll leave the 200 SX of the day for 300 SX of the day for dead. So we've gotten something out of all this. But Al, I think your point about the clear head and if I understood it, and the idea of being able to see where the airflow via the smoke goes is a way of identifying, where does the head flow most efficiently, correct?
Yeah. Yes, and I think we're going to learn something from it. I've hooked up with this guy. I don't know if you fellas are familiar with him, but his name is David Vizard.
Oh yeah, we know David. I know David real well.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I are going to work together on some things coming up here soon. And also, we're going to have a booth together at PRI in Indianapolis in December.
Very cool.
But man, this man is brilliant.
Vizard's a sharp cat, man. Yeah, he came to my very first class that I ever gave, and he is a sharp dude. I liked having him there. I've actually done some tuning with him on a couple of projects of his. You will have a lot of fun with that guy. He's a good dude.
Oh, he's brilliant. I went to one of his seminars there in Mount Holly, North Carolina.
Right? Yeah.
And we had a blast. But I tell you though, he's a brilliant man, and he knows a lot about probably anything that has to do with an engine. And also, we are trying to gauge interest in him having a seminar in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
You should do one. You should very much do one. They're very good to go to. I like his approach on all. He teaches you how to think. He's very good at getting you started on the whole airflow thing. I guess no one here knows. They haven't been to his classes.
He's a brilliant man, and I really enjoy hanging out with him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we need to get David on here. He's a guest we need to get on here. I'll arrange that. That's a good call. Sharp dude. Yep. Very cool.
I think something that would help people with some of the head stuff is understanding the difference between a big flow number and a head that actually makes power aren't necessarily the same thing, right? So you can have a head that flows 400, but if the airflow is really slow at 400, it has no velocity, then it's not making as much power as something that could actually have less overall number, but way, way better velocity.
You got another
I think that's something that Alma could definitely
port
talk about.
Port velocity is what it's all about. And the example that I give to people is that the most restrictive port in almost any port, in most ports, is between the valve and the seat. If you look at the passage itself, you could cut a section of that off and put it on a flow bench, and that passage itself will flow a lot of air. But the most restrictive area is usually between the valve and the seat, and that valve is only open for 1,000th of a second. And so what happens is I normally give people the traffic. If I have a traffic light, that's only...
Uh-oh. Hey, Alvin, something happened to your microphone there, buddy. Can you hear us? I hear him still going in the background.
Yeah, Alvin, something happened to your mic.
Can you hear us, bud? Hello?
All right, we'll come back in a second.
He'll come back.
The light turns green.
There we go.
And about 3 cars will go through, and then the light turns back red again. Now, if we had about 8 cars traveling bumper to bumper at 40 miles per hour, and they hit that light at just the moment that it turned green, all 8 of those cars could get through.
Alvin, you're going to have to start over on that. Your mic fell off at some point there, and we lost like all of the story.
Tell us that again.
Back on, yeah, it's real muffled right now. Like it's definitely not in the right spot.
What about now?
That's better.
There you go.
Okay, what did you lose me?
Right at the beginning of the story, what I always tell people is an analogy.
Okay, with traffic, if there's a traffic light that's only green for 7 seconds, and the cars are sitting there, and the light turns green, and the first person sleeps for a second or two, and they start moving slowly, 2 or 3 cars get through, and the light is back red again. But if you have 8 cars traveling at 40 miles per hour, bumper to bumper, and they get to the light at just the moment that it turns green, all 8 of those cars can get through there. And so the goal is to get as much air past that valve in the length of time that we have to work with. And inertial tuning, ram tuning,
right? Pulse tuning,
intake runner length, pulses, and wave pulses, and all that. Everything has to do with that. And if the port is too big, the airspeed is too slow, then you can have a lot of lift, you can have a big valve, but it's just not going to get as much through there.
That makes sense.
That instant flow is a lot different than steady state generic flow.
Well, and I know you care about mid lift flow as well, because the valve spends twice as much time at half lift as it does at full lift. You hear this is stuff that engine masters guys spend a lot of time on.
Cough, square port versus cathedral port.
Oh God, here we go.
There's a whole lot of cathedral port mafia being posted on Facebook chat for sure.
Velocity profiles for the win here.
But you know what, though?
Coefficient of discharge, right, John?
That's right.
But I think it's so cool how they named the head the cathedral port. And a lot of people think that there's some magic involved in the shape of a cathedral port. But
No, there's
actually no.
Yeah,
No,
we don't argue that.
No, it was literally just a divot that was put in the top of the runner to make room for the injector.
Yep.
It's literally all it is. There's nothing special about the head. It just
works.
It just so happens that the valve sizes are smaller and they have good port velocity compared to a square port.
Yeah, that's the only thing about it, and it's not even the shape of the port that's anything special. In all honesty, I don't care for the shape of the port because the port has a lot of cross sectional area change. It changes from narrow and skinny, and then it gets shorter, and then it gets wider. And I don't necessarily think that that's benefiting the cylinder head in any way, shape, or form, having that cross sectional area change shape. I wish it.
But it's the right size port and valve for the velocity they're shooting for on that engine.
Oh, exactly, and that's what makes that head work so well. It's not oversized. It has a good cross sectional area, and it has a great valve size.
Think about what GM was doing whenever they designed that square port head with such a large, intake valve and such a large volume port. They have to pass emissions with these engines, and they need to get as much airflow into the cylinder per cycle with a very, very small camshaft. So what do? They put a ginormous port with a big valve that, just barely opens and closes just enough to get air in. That's what they had to do to get the horsepower, but still, keep the emissions in
check.
Yeah.
Your mic
the pumping loss on an LS3 head is very, very low when it's in operation. Way lower than it is on a cathedral port head. So it's, the LS3 exists like solely because of that, in my opinion.
Well, there you have it.
Not to get us off topic, but
go ahead, James, since you're here.
I said not to really get us off topic there, but
you did.
Anyway.
Here it comes.
No, it's all on topic. Come on.
Yeah, baby screaming in the background's normal for us.
Yep. Oh man, I can tell everybody's just burnt out tonight. Slow night. Well, Alvin, thanks for coming on and talking to us for a little bit, man. We appreciate it.
Okay, sure, you're welcome. Anytime.
You got a website anywhere people can check out, or?
I do. I have a www.cncportwork.com. I've got Calhoun Custom Porting on Facebook.
Got it.
Yeah, him and his kid do some pretty cool projects.
Oh, nice. Oh, there we go. I check them out on Facebook.
Yeah, we're always working on something.
Very cool. Is there any kind of combos you specialize in?
Well, we do more Chevrolet stuff than anything else because there's more of it out there. But for our own personal stuff, we're Ford guys.
Got it.
I think that the next video that I post is going to be what I consider the perfect port. I'm going to get an acrylic tube, and it's going to be slightly larger than the diameter of the valve. I'm going to cut a seat with a 30, 45, and 60, and to fit the valve. And the valve is going to be standing straight up in the port. And I'm going to build some stands to hold the guide in place. Upstream of the valve, I'm going to have, I'm trying to think of the word, but it's essentially an air straightener with a honeycomb to straighten the air to get it to where it's almost laminar flow.
Like they do with the before they run through the mass airflow meter on a Superflow dyno, the little blower fans that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And my goal is to find how much can a certain valve size flow. I know they have theoretical numbers, but I would like to see how much would the actual valve flow with that amount of curtain area.
Sure.
And
sounds
of
pretty
course,
cool.
I'm going to put smoke through it so we can actually see it.
Yeah, see how it's flowing too. That's pretty cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Get back to
that
Scott
should
or
be
get back
coming
with us. Get back with us when you got something going there. We'll post up another video. That one was pretty cool. Like it.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
The other one, I was amazed. It had over, I think, 12,000 views. People loved it.
Yeah, clearly. Hopefully we bump it up by a couple thousand tonight.
But 2 years ago, we did one with the styrofoam particles. LS Nation put it on their site, and I think it got like about 69,000 views.
That's pretty good. Yeah, well, let us know when you got another video to post up. I'd like to see the new tube that you're building. We'll post that up. Have to follow up on that.
And,
Yeah.
and for those who are wondering, he does both.
Go ahead, Scott.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, for everybody who's wondering, he does both hand porting and CNC porting. So he's got, he does a lot of stuff by hand because he's done it for so many years. He's really, really good at it. But he has the ability to take that port that he finds that works on your cylinder head and make it match on all the ports if you need it to.
Well, I'm not trying to be a salesman, but I'll say this, that we have flowed a lot of heads by other people that were hand ported and some really well-known big-name people. And there's always going to be variation from port to port because the human hand, I'm an artist. I draw, paint, and sculpt and all that. But I'm nowhere near perfect. And even if you get two runners to where they look the same and they flow the same, they're still not the same. Because what we've done is Audie Ross had ported the head. And we brought it here and we flowed it several times and he worked with it till he had all the runners flowing the same thing. We took that head, we put it on the CNC machine, we digitized all 4 intake runners, we overlaid them in different colors, and we could see that they were physically not the same.
Yeah, differ widely. Yep. That's probably the stuff that results in each cylinder needing its own timing curve and individual tuning. That's probably a lot of the stuff that gets you. That's the job I do, so that's interesting. But carry on.
Now that's what I would think. But what we can do is we can find a port that works. We can digitize it and we can cut it. And given that the valve job is the same, every runner will flow the same as the original. And that's really cool. Cool stuff.
No, that's super cool. That balance out power in the engine. I like that. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Alvin, get back with us here in a month or two or whenever you guys are ready when you put something together. Maybe we get you back on with David Vizard. But it was
sounds great.
Good having you, buddy. Okay. All right. You have a good night.
Enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks, bud. Appreciate the last minute help there. We'll talk to you guys soon. All righty.
All right. Good night, fellas.
See you, buddy.
All right.
That was cool. Thanks, Evans.
For sure.
Welcome.
Yeah.
An interesting person to talk to there. He does some cool stuff.
Yeah. Alvin sounds pretty sharp. I really like that video. I like the acrylic head that he did, the cylinder head. And I guess he did that on CNC.
Yeah, so I don't remember how he had that done. I think he had it. I think he CNC'd it himself on that. I think he got a big CNC machine like in his garage. Like he lives in this house that's, it's a modest little house, nothing over extravagant, and like he does all the work out in his garage because it's where his bench is and he can feel comfortable doing it. And then like he opens the door and there's this like $500,000 CNC machine sitting there.
Nice.
You know, it's like, wow, holy crap. You know, you expect to see that thing in like a big facility or something. It's definitely not a big facility. It's not physically huge, you know, but he does a lot of work.
Machines to have. Yep.
Yep. You know, they got a bay over there where they work on engines and cars and stuff, and they do all kinds of cool stuff there. They do carburetors, which is kind of nice because not many people do anymore.
We need to get some CNC guys on here. We need to get Nick, Blake's guy, and then we need to get maybe Jay from Minneapolis. Jay, dang it, Drag Week Jay with the cameras. Jay Brown, get on here and talk a little bit about setting up CNC operations. That guy's got like 3 machines going now, making parts for FE engines of all things.
Hey, James Short, tell us about how a dune buggy kicked your ass and how awesome it was to meet me.
Yeah, James is on.
Is he not listening now?
I'm trying to get my unmute button unmuted too.
After he laughs.
I'm trying to find it. Yeah, I got beat by a dune buggy, but apparently it takes 600 horsepower, 170 mile an hour to overcome its own aerodynamics.
His own arrow.
Yeah, but he beat everybody else too, so I have no shame in that.
Yeah, I don't think there wasn't not a lot of cars on the property were touching what he had going on today.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to take a little homebrewed, 370 with a single Borg and compete with a 427 with twins in a car that's probably 2,800 pounds or better, sponsored by God himself.
No, your guys' stuff looked good out there, though.
I try.
Thanks.
It was a fun time, though.
Man, thanks for helping. That was cool. You helped the mod a little bit. That was we needed that just to make sure.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah, he came by asking me if I had a pressure transducer. And I was like, nah.
Yeah, I think he needed like a 0 to 150 or something. And I actually had, I had it on my list of things to actually take because, you have all these pressure transducers on your turbo car and, you never know when one's going to go bad, especially like a dome pressure sensor or something. It's, down there with all the heat and vibration and everything else. But I didn't bring it with me, so I didn't have anything to help him out with.
Sounded like SCT was a good time. I've heard that from a lot of people.
Yeah, we've been to the last 2, and we had a blast. I mean, it was a little bit cluttered, down there this past time. I guess that was probably the biggest one that they've actually had, from my understanding.
I don't think cluttered was not the word for those staging lanes.
Yeah. They opened up test and tune, after the roll racing stuff. So we hopped in the lanes, and literally about the time that I got, up there to run, they had already closed the test and tune lanes, an hour prior. So I got one test hit, and my luck, the stick shift class runs very first. So as soon as I got done with my first test pass, I had about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 minutes before I had to make my first elimination pass. So, yeah, that's not very fun on a turbo car.
You what?
What's that?
I said that we could get the fluids warm.
Yeah.
But
they're extra warm.
Yeah, I heard him say multiple times over the PA, like, hey, class racers, be prepared to hot lap your cars. Like, this event's called Street Car Takeover, not Race Car Takeover.
Right.
Speaking of which, Rye, you got to start driving your car to the track and working on your drag week deal. What do you have to do when you drive your car to the track, bring your junk that you need with you in the car or the trailer, and start rehearsing, because that's a good way to get used to what it's actually going to take.
Yeah.
So I've driven it. When I had the 80 in it, I drove it an hour and a half to the track, raced it an hour and a half home. A couple times I take it to the track right now on a trailer because every time I go, I'm going to break it. So I'm trying to give it all I can. So I know it's the trailer's insurance, but yeah, I've been trying to do that. I'm working on actually building a trailer right now. But just to solidify that it is a true street car. I ran 8s on Saturday and then I drove it to work on Monday just to kind of rub it in everybody's face.
I like it.
But yeah, that's on the to-do list, is because I know that's going to put it in a whole different area on the VE table that it's been kind of relatively uncharted when towing a trailer with some load behind it. But yeah, there's some changes we got to make for that. It's on the list.
Easily the best drag week trailer ever are these little fiberglass things that look sort of like towable flying saucers that U-Haul used to have.
Yeah, those
go around.
Like the clamshell looking things.
Yeah, if I ever found another one of those, I'm not saying this officially, but someone I knew said this to me, I would rent it and report it stolen.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, precisely.
No, I had a buddy of mine who gave me. He's like, "Hey, I got this trailer. You want it? It'd be perfect to do what you're talking about, to haul your tools around with." I was like, "Yeah, great. Bring it on by." And he brings me this thing. It looked like it's been sitting like with the Titanic on the bottom of the ocean. And literally, the only thing I could use off of it was like the wheels and tires. I was like, "Thank." He basically brought it, dropped it off my yard, and said, "Here, throw this away."
What you do is you find an old like Ski-Doo trailer, and you just use it for the wheels and the tow hitch portion of it, and then you just build a box around it out of plywood, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I got to figure out something to get creative with it. I'm going to try to tie the hitch into my parachute mount, but
I don't recommend that at all.
Yeah, I'm not too confident in the thickness of that material on there.
It needs to be tied into the frame, not to the parachute mount.
Well, the mount is pretty beefy into the frame, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like reinforcing that so it can hold tongue
It's not
weight.
made to handle the twist.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah. But
listen, there's a solution to that.
On that one a little bit, because I've been doing that. I just have a properly reinforced parachute mount.
Yeah.
Hitch.
You literally just take your receiver hitch, mount it to the car, and then you get a receiver and use that as the anchor for the parachute.
Yeah, that's kind of probably what I'm going to end up doing.
But you put it up, at like, you want to put it higher than you might put a normal trailer hitch, because you want your parachute to be at the right height at the back of the car, which is the vertical center of gravity, so that the chute does not pull the car either off the ground or try to pull the wheels off the ground.
So it's not jerking the ass into the car up in the air.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Another good application for shock travel sensors, by the way.
What's that, drag week trailer pulling?
No, having shock sensors to figure out your where to mount your chute.
Oh, yeah.
Lanyard at.
That would be the sophisticated way.
Yeah.
Everybody else does sort of a Kentucky windage measurement, no insult intended, around where gaps that align the proxy for the vertical center of gravity. Or you could actually, do the tilt scale thing and figure it out.
Hang the car from its tail.
Yeah.
Or you just buy the mount that is already on 400 million cars that already works, that everybody uses, that has been tried and true and proven already.
Yeah, which in my case was the TRZ mount, and I would recommend that same one for you, Rye.
Oh, I already have a parachute and it functions.
Okay, good. And now you're halfway to having a trailer hitch.
I am. Yeah,
but when you went over 150, did you throw it just to throw it?
Yeah, I did.
That's good.
I'm just getting the muscle memory of doing it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Put the hand up there in case the car goes crazy. If I feel something that I don't like, I've thrown it in the 8th mile at 125 just because on the top end it moved around a little bit and I wasn't too comfy with it. And I just tossed it out just to do it.
Yeah, just speeds. All people are going to know is that, well, he put the chute out at the right time.
Don't forget your tow mirrors, Rye. You're going to need those too.
Yeah. Hey, John, can I borrow them?
Can you borrow what?
your
tow mirrors.
Oh,
you can't borrow my tow mirrors.
You don't have to get me. You don't have to give me another set to put on it or something. I can't ride around with no mirrors on the truck. They don't do you much good folded down though.
No, I don't want them to like see the trailer. I want them to slow the car down at the end of a pass. I'm gonna roll the window out and flip them up.
Yeah. I hear you.
Pardon me in advance, but you could just roll down the window and stick your head out.
Cup your hands behind your ears.
Definitely get some of the LED light strips and put them all over under the car.
Yeah, sure.
Gotta have some rock lights in the wheel wells.
Yeah, they're rock lights. They're not underglows.
Like if you know, get on the right Instagram pages, you can find those kits advertised all day for like $29.99.
Go ahead and jack the front end up real high too. Get that California wing down.
He does live in Carolina.
Dude,
so it would only be proper that a car to have a little Carolina squat.
What is that? Why do people do that?
I don't know. That is the most inside. Are they so cheap that they can only buy half of a lift kit at a time? I don't know.
I see it every single day. Every day.
It drive me insane.
Squatted look pickup.
I would want to. I mean, they look like my 1-ton with a gooseneck on it, sitting still in them.
It's a style thing. It's like import cars that have
that's
the
not style. That's stupid.
Like, you know, that have that like 45-degree rake on their tires.
Yeah, but you know what? So with the import guys in the stance crowd, they will put a $4,000 set of wheels, and they will get down to a gnat's ass of fitment.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? There is a level of precision there. It's not my thing at all. It's kind of lame. There's no function, but that's what they're into. That's what they look like. These guys are just doing like, hey man, let me get some 22-inch Denali wheels and put some 35-inch boggers, put a Yeti cooler in the back, and my build is done. Like that's all they do.
So, don't forget the light bar.
Yeah, light bar.
4 light bars.
Light
Not
bar.
One light
like
bars.
In the grill and in the tailgate, like everywhere.
You can go grab me
enough to see a deer from 4 miles away.
Yeah, let me get a Costa hat, a Salt Life sticker, and some white sunglasses.
and a set of Wranglers with it.
I've long listening to you guys for the last 5 minutes. This is all me.
The views and opinions of this show do not necessarily reflect Real Tuners Radio.
We call those guys concrete farmers because they sit in Walmart parking lot.
Mall crawlers.
Yep. I don't know what happened. How'd you meet your boyfriend? Well, he was revving his truck at the Walmart, and I heard them 2-inch straight pipes a mile away, and I just had to see.
Them cherry bombs just did it for me.
WalmartParkingLot.com.
Yeah.
In my 20s, a set of glass packs sounded awesome. In my 40s, a set of glass packs sounds like total dog balls. Yeah.
It's amazing how your tastes change.
It is, isn't it, though?
It is, because I essentially have a set of glass packs as my side pipes on the Fox Body Drag Week car. So things do evolve, but that's what you get when you put 2.5-inch exhaust pipes on a 4.5-inch collector. It functions.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. Taste changing. I still like women in their 20s.
That will never change with them.
Right.
It's just that later on you can appreciate women in their 30s and 40s and 50s and such because they all look younger than you. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, I think car tour is when I had the realization that I was getting old because of how hot it was, and every car that I walked by that had air conditioning, I thought was the coolest car, like literally on the planet. I was like,
must
that
have.
car's badass because it has air conditioning.
So I don't know if you guys saw that engine that Frank Beck built. At the small pulleys, that thing will make 1,700 on E85, and it'll make the pulls with the air conditioning compressor connected.
That's hilarious.
Which I thought was pretty cool.
It knocks off all of 8 horsepower.
Yeah, whatever it does.
I don't know how much truth there is. Did you guys see the meme that Underground Racing put up? It said runs 259 miles an hour in the half mile, but forgot to turn the air conditioning off.
Right.
Was
that somebody's underground Lambo?
Yeah. I
Nice.
guess it did that at the last shift.
That's awesome. Those cars are badass. I've seen those engines going together. The underground guys built some neat shit. 2,500 horsepower Lambo motors, Audi motors, actually, right? Modular Audis. Good stuff.
Doesn't Proline do all those?
Yep, Proline does all the underground motors. They always have 10 or 12 of them sitting there at any given time in process. Underground does some business, man. It's pretty cool to see. So, hey, man. I don't know about y'all, but I got to wrap it up, post this thing up, and then I got to get up early in the morning and head back over to Andy Leach's shop. I don't know what everybody else is working on this week, but I know you're all busy.
We were boxing up stuff to go up to Horsepower Wars today. So that's
cool. Oh, well, I can't wait to hear how that is now that you're involved with it. That's going to be outstanding.
Well, what I want to do is we'll organize Chad and Stinky Pinky Dean and Biggin and anybody else we can organize for a little.
Get a short live feed. Yep.
Yeah, short live feed for the podcast.
Or even if you want to call it in and I'll record it and just play it back for the show later if we have to. So I'm flexible like that. Just let me know.
Okay, we'll figure something out.
Cool. All right. Well, I got the background, the outro music playing. All right. So once again, if anybody's interested in coming to some classes, got a couple of seats left. Got a couple seats for Kansas City this weekend after next. Look at RealTuners.com. You can find the information about the classes and the upcoming schedule there. We just added October 13th and 14th in Dallas-Fort Worth. James is going to teach an HP Tuners class on GM Gen 3 and 4 engines. Says he's going to do a little bit of transmission tuning discussion there too. But bring your questions. The second day is all Q&A anyway. Other than that, thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. A little bit slow tonight, and that's kind of the way we wanted it. Just get a visitor, get a guest next week, and get back in line. But hope everybody's having a good summer, and we will see you again soon in a week. Take care.